Hello. I woke up, cleaned up the house a bit, and then I came out here and I finished off a beer from last night. Happy birthday, America. Before we talk about Catty Cat, I have to fulfill a request from Tilly Perez. He asked me to rub beer cans all over my feet. So here, look. Oh man, look. Oh wait, we have to dual wield it. We have to dual wield. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Actually, hold up. I think I can still get my leg behind the back of my neck. Let me see if I can still do that. I took gymnastics when I was a kid. Okay, yeah, I can still touch my heel to the base and back of my own neck. So yeah, I'm very flexible. I have maintained my flexibility my whole life, and we have Ace Combat music that should be playing. Play that funky music. There we go. Okay, so yeah, it's not even noon yet, but this is America's birthday, and as a nation, we're here to party. Okay. So we have all that out of the way. I don't normally do viewer requests, but Tilly is special. So there you go. There's your only tense video. Okay. The rest of you can tune out now. That's what most of you were here for, I'm pretty sure. Anyway. Catty Cat is, for some reason, my obsession for the last while. I open a window in here. I've always been interested in Final Fantasy XI, not just as a video game, but actually as a psychoanalytical tool. I feel like a lot of psychology methods and practices and techniques and all that, they help you as the observer look into a person's mind as if through a 1600s keyhole in a door. But within the game space of Vana'diel, it's more like just opening the door and walking into that person's room. You can see everything about the way their mind operates through the way they interact with Final Fantasy XI. I've always found that genuinely fascinating. And in the case of some outliers we have had, like Jovestar, the thing that's interesting to me about the Horizon community in particular is that the general consensus of the player base is that they want everyone else to succeed. They want everyone else to also become empowered because it improves the health of the server so that we can all keep playing on it. That's the general vibe I get from Horizon, to be honest. And to that end, there are players that, that they want to help with LUAs. They want to help people understand the macro system, the tag system. That always willing to link new players to the wiki and be like, go to this NPC to get these spells for cheap, and start by leveling up a couple jobs to 10 so that you can sell crystals and get enough money for your first main job's starter gear. The number of people that help with Limit Break 1, 2, 3, it's crazy. Sub jobs. Oh my gosh, there's more people given help with sub job items on Horizon than there are charitable, street kitchens offering food for homeless people in LA. It's crazy. Honestly, how much generosity and kindness, courtesy, the willingness to spend their time as a higher level player guiding and assisting new players. That sentiment and that vibe is so palpable on Horizon that it has a texture that you can feel with your fingers and your hands. You can grab hold and feel the genuine human warmth that really permeates throughout the majority of the Horizon community for over 3+ sequential years going strong. To me, that's crazy, because Final Fantasy XI turns people into raving, psychotic, mouth-frothing, hate-filled lunatics. That's what this game does, and that's why I find it interesting. I'm very interested in criminal psychology, and so using Final Fantasy XI as this metric of here's how this person acted, and also, oh, look, they got into criminal trouble later down the line. I find that really interesting. Like how Gesper apparently stabbed some dude and went on the run. And then you look back at all the behaviors that led up to that, and that's how you learn to assign behavioral patterns in criminal psychology. Anyway, why am I saying all this? Is because Catty Cat is incapable of being taught how to play Final Fantasy XI, and I find that interesting. I mean, I know why, the level 2 autism. Well, it's not just level 2 autism. It's odd HDH, and I think OCD as well. My wife mentioned something else. She's really knowledgeable about that particular field of psychology. But I've never met a person quite like this. I talked so much this went out. Like, so many people have tried so many ways to teach him how to play Final Fantasy XI. But this dude is fundamentally stuck and locked at level 10 warrior, rank 1 from Sandoria, wearing his starter gear. But let me at least say this about Catty Cat. At least they used a great axe on warrior, unlike some people. What does that say about them? Yeah, that was a deep cut. That was a deep cut just now. That wasn't very nice. But it's true, so. But a lot of people are convinced that Catty Cat is a troll. That they are incapable of believing that this is a genuine person legitimately expressing themselves. They think it's an act. They think it's a character. They think it's a joke. They are incapable of believing it's true. And to me, that just points to a failure in public education regarding people with autism. I've seen plenty of people like this in my life. It's like, oh, yep, yeah, he definitely has, what they call these days level 2 autism. He definitely has OCD. He definitely has ADHD. I mean, have you seen this guy? He plays Toontown and Final Fantasy 14 at the same time. Like he inputs his commands in Toontown. It's honestly kind of like one of the ship battles in Skies of Arcadia. If you've never seen Toontown, that's basically the way it works. And then he hits confirm, and then while his characters and the enemies are performing their actions for that turn, he alt tabs over to Final Fantasy 14 to go fight a few enemies in there, and then he alt tabs over to Toontown, and like that is how this person is. And what I've noticed is a lot of people are they're trying to change him. They're trying to direct him of how to live his life, what they believe is a better way. And I think that there's a huge fallacy there, or fallacy, in the regard that, I think people are so used to, in the Final Fantasy XI structure and environment, we help each other, we give each other advice, we try to improve each other. But no matter what anyone has said regarding real life advice, even when it is asked for, or guidance and instruction in game or on the Discord, he never reads the answer. So there's like no point really in trying to answer the questions. And I've seen that leads people to a lot of frustrations and things like that. But one of the biggest problems is that these people are trying to type out like these freaking essays, right? This is a person who has admitted they don't have time to read the cutscenes. They just want to play the game. Like, dude, the Final Fantasy 14 joke about reading cutscenes and all that. But yeah, he skips all of them. You don't have time to read the cutscenes in the game he's playing. You think he can read a paragraph of text? I don't know why people keep trying to do that. It doesn't work with this person. And like, I don't know. Oliver, it's okay. It's okay, Oliver. Good boy. Good dog. Good dog. You guard your family. It's a good boy. It's okay. Sorry. Like, I've tried, in DMs, I'm very short, I'm very curt with him. Not curt, that's not the right word. Frick, I'm sorry, I'm a little drunk right now. I was going through the Rolodex of the thesaurus in my brain, and I picked the wrong word for that one. But I don't know. Concise. It was a C word. But like, the way you have to communicate with him is like, you have to say like 5 or 6 words at a time, and then let him reply. Like that's the only way to like get a conversation going. If you say all these massive walls of text, he's just not going to read it. He's not even in, or worst case scenario for other people who don't understand his condition is that he'll latch on to like one word or a name or an acronym, and he will completely ignore everything you said and be like, what is this? What does this mean? But no, I find him interesting because to me it calls back this article I saw on a gaming journalism website. This guy's gaming journalist, and he's trying to introduce his kids who are very, very young, like 5, 6 years old or something. He's trying to introduce his kids to video games from his childhood. So he busts out the Nintendo 64. He put Mario 64, right? And he's like, I'm gonna teach my kid to play Mario 64. I'm teaching him to play one of the first 3D games, And so, they get like 1 or 2 stars in Bob Mountain, and then they go to it's been so long since I played it, the first snow stage, Snowy Top Frap Mountain, whatever the crap it's called. And at first, the first thing his kid does is he makes Mario start running, and he long jumps right off the top of that mountain as far as he can go, and falling for like 3 years, and then lands like right in the penguin pool at like the bottom of the mountain or something. I don't know. He just long jumping off the mountain, and his kid's doing this for like 30 minutes, and he's trying to direct his kids to be like, well, you can collect the red coins, or you can go after the star for the thing you chose. And his kid doesn't care about any of that. His kid just wants to keep making Mario jump off the mountain, do the biggest long jumps he can from the highest point of the mountain, see how long and far Mario can go. And he was explaining at first, he was like, that he was kind of frustrated because his kid wasn't accepting his directions and his guidance. But, because he's like, well, this is the way you're supposed to play Mario 64. But when he took a step back, like literally, he went to the kitchen to go get some Kool-Aid and some cracker sandwiches or something. And he comes back and, the whole time he's in the kitchen, this kid is just yucking it up. He's having such a great time. He's laughing and having such a good time in there. And then when he comes back, he stands in the doorway and he has this moment of like, dang, when was it that I stopped being able to do this? And then instead of trying to force his son to play the game the correct way, here's how you beat the game as efficiently as possible, 5-year-old child. The kid doesn't care about any of that. He realized, my son is having more fun making Mario jump off the top of this snowy mountain peak over and over again than I have ever had with Mario 64 for my entire life. Who am I to say he's playing it correctly or incorrectly? He's having fun playing it the way he wants to play it. And the thing I've seen with Catty is that they really don't play games the way anyone else plays games, They are content to fight things in starter zones on their level 60 paladin in Final Fantasy 14, to just make another new character and play the starter zone over and over again, because there's familiarity to it, and that brings them comfort. And I think that it's a huge failing on society's part, both in the local, practical, proximal sense, but also in the larger global societal sense of our failure to educate people to these types of conditions and how to interact with these people. Because I think a lot of people are, I think that's the thing, is that the reason people want to just say, like, this is a troll, this is unbelievable, I can't believe this, I can't fathom this, I don't want to accept this, is the biggest sin against humanity in that is that there is now a failure to recognize this person as a human being. It's easy to write them off and give them no credit, and I think that's terrible. But I'm not going to point the finger at any one person. Again, it's a fault of society. So anyway, yeah, that's my opinion. Thanks for flying over my house. Thanks for breaking my cow lamp. But there's one thing I haven't been able to figure out with Catty, is I don't know why they're so obsessed with the letter D in character names. They really are. Like, seriously, they have they have two characters in Final Fantasy 14. One has a name of DDD for the first name, DDD for the last name. Another one is the same thing, but it's 4 Ds instead of just 3. I don't know why they keep putting D's in character names. I don't understand what the deal is with that. Maybe it only is ever going to make sense to them. But you see certain mannerisms in typing that people have, and I find it so amusing that they, every time they want to say the word though, as in like, although type of thing, they always say it as thought. They I don't think they've ever said the word though. They always say thought. They never notice it. I don't think they're able to notice it. But I've had some interesting conversations with him. That one new dude, Hunk. He had a voice chat with him, and I DM'd Hunk, and I was asking him, like, what makes you so sure by having a voice chat with Catty that they're level 2 autistic, odd ADHD, OCD, all that. And he has experienced people in his own life with the same diagnosis, and the number one thing he said was actually the way that they spoke, if you know what I mean. Difficulties with tongue and jaw control when speaking, that sort of thing. And he was like, I'm convinced that that's for sure, that's true. And I've talked with Hunk briefly about that sort of thing, and our life experiences, and yeah, I'm convinced that what he says is definitely true. And in I'm not going to tell you exactly word for word. I'm not going to, like, whatever. But, like, in my DMs with Catty, he's equally as self-reflective as anyone else. He understands that he causes problems in social situations, but he doesn't understand why they become problems. Because from his perspective, he's just self-expressing himself the way everybody else does. Yet he gets persecuted and hounded and banned from everywhere he goes because people just don't understand his condition. And, I don't know what the solution is for that. I don't think there is a solution to that, there's not just like this thing you do and then you ignore it. I think that's the other problem, is people think there's some, key you can turn, some switch that you can flip, and now this problem is rectified. It's put inside of a controlled bubble space, and we don't have to deal with it in greater society any longer. But I've done my best to talk to him one on one, straight up, like you would talk to any other human being. And I have seen that he is trying to improve himself. And I wasn't trying to direct him. I'm not trying to change him. I don't know why he latched onto me. It's funny because like when he started talking about how much he loves trains, Spucks, like goes on the attic dig, and he like pulls out his old childhood box of trains that him and his dad used to use, And Catty's like, Spucks, you're a poser. You're not actually autistic. And like, he just would not believe Spucks for some reason. I don't know why. Spucks got all mad about it. He's like, I showed him my trains. He didn't believe me. I don't know. But for some reason, I'm one of the people that Catty looks to for direction and guidance and advice at times, and I do what I can. But I think that's the important thing, is that a lot of people they're trying to like throw entire encyclopedias of lifestyle choices at him at a time when he didn't ask for it. You know what I'm saying? It's, if he actually asks you for it, that means he's receptive to what you're going to say. So I think maybe that's why that's had an effect. But I'm a little drunk right now, and I'm kind of realizing that maybe I'm making this come across as like Catty is my guinea pig in a science experiment or something, and I don't want it to come across that way. Like, I'm genuinely interested in him as a person, as a human being, and I want what's best for him. But at the same time, you got to understand, you can't You can't force things on people who have an intrinsic demand avoidance built into the way they are. It doesn't work that way. The best way you go about it is you just be their friend. And then when they ask you a question, then you just answer it honestly. And don't, I think one of the biggest problems, especially with people with his condition, is it's very common for the parents to overly infantilize, and you have to treat them as equals, you know? I remember seeing this high school graduation speech on social media a little while ago. It was from a girl with, some mild developmental disorders. And she actually went up there on stage with a PowerPoint presentation behind her, standing up there on her crutches because she couldn't, it was hard for her to stand upright on her own. And she goes up there with a big old PowerPoint presentation, and the very first slide on it says, "Call me retarded to my face." And she has this whole speech about like how much she hated going through school with all the people that were babying her and treating her too nicely, because she could tell. She wanted the people who treated her like an equal. Y'all make fun of the other kids, make fun of me too. It made her feel left out because no one made fun of her, actually. And that's a strange thing, because we understand, although it's hard to police, bullying in schools. And bullying is bad. Honestly, bullying in schools is the root cause of so many suicides. It's kind of horrifying and very sad. But here we have a person who was like, y'all didn't ever bully me, and it made me feel left out. It made me feel excluded, and that didn't make me feel good. And I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. That would be truly an egregious thing to say. But at the same time, it's like, this is a person who wants to fit in. This is a person who, despite their difficulties and challenges in life, wants to feel included in the social interactions of their peers. And I feel like a lot of people are just baby talking them and treating them like an idiot. Like, I think that's kind of messed up. You talk to them like an equal, like you would talk to anybody else, I remember, heck, when I was like, 7, 8, 9 years old, in the cabinet shop, in the construction yards, all of the concrete pourers, the plumbers, the electricians, and everything. When I was on the job site, they didn't treat me like a little kid. They talked to me like I was on the job and things were serious. They treated me like an equal. And when we all sat around eating Chinese food during break, they talked to me like I was an equal. They didn't talk to me with stupid little baby voices and ask me what my favorite cartoon was. Whatever they wanted to talk about, they just talked to me like they would talk about it with anybody else. That respect was shown to me when I was younger, and I think it's an important thing to do. It doesn't matter if someone's older or younger than you. That really shouldn't have any bearing or influence on the way you communicate with anyone else. Treat them like an equal. It's like Jesus said, treat others the way you want to be treated. Personally, I don't like being treated like shit. So, try to do my best not to do that to other people. And I fail at it in many ways. just like everybody else, for sure. I'm the furthest thing from perfect. But as I was saying, there's not enough public knowledge about these people's conditions, so they don't understand how these types of people are. And be the change you want to see in the world. All right, well, whatever. Even if this only educates one other person, then hopefully I achieved what I set out to do. Thank you all for listening to this crazy, drunk 4th of July rant. I hope you all have a good one. And be kind to each other. God bless. Later.